I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the meeting of the Barrie Police Service Board of September 19th, 2024. I'd like to begin with our land acknowledgement. In keeping with Indigenous protocol and building respectful relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples in Canada, it is customary to acknowledge the traditional territories and ancestral lands of Indigenous peoples. We would like to acknowledge this sacred land on which the Barrie Simcoe Emergency Service Campus operates. It has been the site of human activity for 15,000 years. This land is the ancestral land of the Wendat and the Anishinaabe Nation. The treaty that was signed for this particular parcel of land is collectively referred to as the Williams Treaty. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture. We also recognize the enduring presence of Indigenous peoples on this land and are committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect. Thank you. Our agenda was distributed in advance. A motion to approve today's agenda. Deputy Mayor Thompson. Any questions, comments, amendments to today's agenda? Seeing none, those in favor? Thank you. Any declarations of conflict of interest with respect to today's agenda from any of the members of the board? Seeing none. Two sets of minutes were distributed in advance. Motion to approve our minutes of our June 20th, 24 public board meeting. Mayor Thompson. Any questions, comments, or amendments to those minutes? Seeing none, those in favor? Thank you. Also in our packets were the minutes for our September 12th, 2024 special budget meeting. Motion to approve those. Any questions, comments, or amendments to those minutes? Seeing none, those in favor? Thank you. Hand it over to you, Chief Johnson, for the first of our presentations to introduce some of our new sergeants. Chief Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just going to move up to the podium. Chair and board and members present, including family, I'd like to first introduce our Sergeant Keith Fines, newly promoted Sergeant Keith Fines. He started his career in 2006 with the Peel Regional Police Service. In 2010, he transferred to the Barrie Police, where he spent time in frontline, community services, and the tactical unit. Sergeant Fines is currently assigned to Platoon 4 as a patrol sergeant. In his spare time, he enjoys spending time with his family on their farm, fishing, and relaxing their cottage in Bala. Sergeant Fines, I'll have you step up here. I would next like to introduce new Sergeant Rob Henderson. Rob has been a member of the Barrie Police Service since 2008. During his time, Rob has worked at the front line where he's worked in the downtown core and on platoon. Rob has also coached numerous of our recruits over the years. Rob is currently assigned to Platoon 1, where he is promoted to the rank of sergeant in August 2024. When Rob is not working, he enjoys camping with his family and going to his kids' sporting events, which are numerous. Sergeant Henderson, you step up here. Sergeant James McKinnon has been a sworn member of the Barrie Police Service since 2008. During his time with the Barrie Police, James has worked on the front line in uniform patrol, the high risk offender unit, CI Criminal Investigations Division, and most recently completed a year and a half as a detective constable in the Homicide Major Crime Unit. Jim is currently assigned to Platoon 4 Investigative Services, where he was promoted to sergeant in August of 2024. Sergeant. With that, Chair, I'll hand it back over to you.
Thanks, Chief, and congratulations to all our newest sergeants. And we appreciate the service you provide, and be safe out there, please, gentlemen. As most of you are aware, I just want one note for those who may be watching us online. Mayor Nuttall has joined us. He is joining us online, so he is present with us. Our recent update to our website that the board requested, I think in June, an update on that. Chief, do you want to start with some introductions and update on our new website?
Thank you, Chair. I'll pass it over to our strategic communications lead, Janet Mays. She'll walk you through our new website. A lot of efforts gone in from a broad team, and those individuals are here today. So I'll hand it over to you, Janet.
Morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chief. Okay. All right. Good morning, Chair Ferguson, members of the board. I'm pleased to be here today to share our new Barrie Police Service website. Next slide, sir. There you go. Okay. Our new Barrie Police Service website was launched just after our last board meeting in June. So I'm glad to be here today to be able to share some of the new features and some more information about our new design. It replaced a site that we built in-house in 2019. So it is a bit updated in terms of design, accessibility, layout, all of those to make it more responsive for the way that people are visiting our site, which is primarily on mobile devices as well. Our new site was designed by Definity Creative, and this is the same firm that we use for our strategic plan and our annual reports. So they're very familiar with our design and how we need to present our information and the importance of that for our community. Because we used our existing content management system, our existing content, and our same general design and layout, rather than moving to a new proprietary kind of back-end editing system, we were able to do it at a very reasonable cost that was covered under an existing evidence-based policing grant. Our new website allows us to more easily share information on our evidence-based policing initiatives and our research projects. So that allowed us to update the website to share that information. This shows our website sessions or visits from 2021 through 2024. So you can see that we do have a bit of a jump in visitors as we enter into 2024, and that number is staying consistently high. We have experienced that growth in 2024, which could be a result of some of the changes in legislation around sharing news items on social media sites that might be leading more people to our site to get that information that they may not be able to access on social media any longer. So we are seeing that increase in visitors, which made it a very convenient time for us to update our website and make it more user-friendly. So user-friendly, accessibility, and informative was some of the driving factors for our new site. As of January 1st, 2021, there was a new set of requirements that came into effect under the Accessibility for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. So this requires us to meet the WCAG 2.0 level AA requirements. So a lot of these things are very common sense and already included in good website design, but it's things like making sure there's high contrast between the background and the text, that there's no audio elements that you can't control, there's no flashing features, and that you can control all the elements with your keyboard as well to make sure that everyone can use the site effectively. We do use online tools to just double check that the features are accessible, and it combs through the coding that makes up the site to just check all of those. Some of the features are not visible to maybe front end users of the website, but are visible in the coding and the way that those assistive devices interact with our site. So we use online checkers like this one to show us whether there are any known or likely problems with our pages. So our homepage has no known or likely problems, and we'll continue to just keep an eye on that with our sub pages as well to make sure that everything remains accessible. One of the key features was the responsive design. So our stats show us that the vast majority of people are using our website on a mobile device. So that's the blue portion. Next is desktop in yellow, tablets in gray. And we actually, for the first part of this year, had 9 people visit our website on a smart TV. So we want to make sure that it's responsive to whatever device people are using to access it. And the design allows, as your screen narrows, as you can see from a laptop to a tablet to a cell phone, the design kind of condenses, but is still very usable. It doesn't require any side scrolling. All the features are still very accessible. The boxes stack instead of being side by side, but that all happens automatically and immediately depending on what type of device you're using. That's something our previous site didn't have. So this is a lot more user-friendly for people who are using it on mobile devices. Some of the additional features that we'll go through are things that we either didn't have on our old website or just enhanced from our previous website. So our event calendar on the previous website launched in 2019 and then into 2020 and beyond, where we didn't really have a lot of events to highlight on our events calendar. So now we're making better use of that feature. This is on the bottom of the main page where it lists the upcoming events, and it's also accessible. I think I can click there, Sarah. Oh. Through our newsroom where there's more detailed information on the upcoming events. So that's another feature that's available now. Our media releases are also available on our main page just below the top section. So the most recent ones are found there. And then they are also available on the newsroom page. What we've done to sort of save space and reduce clutter on our website is after 90 days, those media releases will automatically unpublish. So they're not deleted, they still exist. They're saved on our records, but they're also on the website. They'll just unpublish, so they're not accessible on the website after 90 days, unless it's overridden by one of our website editors to keep it there if it's an ongoing investigation or something that needs to remain accessible. So that's our newsroom page. Our board meeting information is hopefully easier to navigate now. So we have 5 years worth of meetings, and they can be navigated on the years on the left, and then agendas, any presentations or PowerPoints, and then minutes and videos are all available there. Next, when you're in the mobile version, you'll notice that the menu across the top disappears, and that's one of the space saving features. The full menu link at the top will provide, as it says, a full menu so that people can still access all of the elements on a mobile device easily without having to worry about drop-down menus or scrolling. So that's easily accessible on a mobile device and still usable on the full desktop version. If you're not sure quite where to go, that full menu lists everything out, all the pages on the site, to allow people to find the information that they're looking for. And I've got a short video here. This is our community safety data portal. So this replaced or upgraded our community crime map that we had on the previous site, which was one of the most visited features that we had. So it does still include the crime map data, but also adds additional statistical information that we can share with the community. I have a brief video that will just walk through some of information. And I do have our information systems analyst, Maria McWilliams, here if there are any questions about it. But visitors can select different measures, filter by wards, filter by time periods. Data is provided from the past 5 years, including the current year. It's 1 day behind, so it's not live data. It's 1 day behind. And the locations are geomasked to the emergency services zone. So even if it's noted and looks like it's on an address, it is just generic to that area. So all of that location data that you see in the map should be considered approximate, but kind of nearby where it's happening. And it is accessible under our newsroom. And then the last piece that I just wanted to touch on was our 2024 annual report. So at the June meeting, the annual report was approved and printed in hard copy, but we always do a digital version as well for anyone that wants to access it. And it allows us to continue to add details if needed to that. So our strategic planner, Josh, is here as well, and he has built out our online annual report for 2023. It was a bit delayed because we had to wait for the new website to launch before we could start building it. So it did start after that report was approved, but it does have the different sections from the print version, all of the messaging, and replicates the copy version into an online format. The tab menu has the 3 different sections. All the topics are linked to their section on that page, so it's easy to navigate. And they follow the formatting and design from the physical annual report. And there is a back to top. The pages get quite long with all the information, but we've added the back to top features so users can quickly get back to the navigation at the top of it. And just to highlight our, Josh has a little video here we can walk through so you can see how you can click through the different sections. It shows you the information that's available. Navigation stays at the top, and then all the information is available on the page, just as it is in the physical, and it can jump back up to the top. So it includes all our stats. The departmental insights goes through the different areas of the service, and it allows them to jump right through the page. So if you're looking for specific information, it'll jump you right to where you need to be to find what you're looking for. And then just to highlight, the cover of the annual report this year was generated using our ArcGIS data mapping tool from our crime analyst, Samantha Scott. And it helps to highlight the data that we're using to guide our decisions. So it just shows some of the features that we're able to use in our evidence-based research and innovation unit to help guide our service. That's our website. If you have any questions, happy to help.
Any questions? See. Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thanks, Chair. Through you, just out of curiosity, if I report a crime of a theft of a bicycle, for example, is there somewhere on the web page that I can upload it that then would be displayed to the public of my missing bike? Or, you know, we had an incident there last week, of patio furniture or something, where would help in the investigation, or is that?
Thanks for the question. So because it's a reported crime, it would need to be vetted through. So it would go, if it comes in online through our online portal, we have alternative response unit officers go through the report. And if it's appropriate to do that, at the end of the day, we still need to have that. There is an expectation if it's going to be put out to the public, it's appropriate. It respects there's legal constraints on certain things we can do and not do, but if we need help us in identifying someone in certain circumstances, that will be posted. Same with specific property. The ask is through this website, you cannot do that, but when people do report, and we do encourage when there's a theft, please report it, whether through calling in or going to our online portal. We will do, it's captured in report, but we will do our best to go beyond that and put out that information to garner assistance from our community as well.
If I could just piggyback, that was the one question I had for Chief or Deputy First was an online reporting is done, what's that process? What happens at that stage at our service once something's reported?
Thanks, Chair. So the once it's reported, there's an email sent back to the person reporting it. Also a link to provide any video or photo for that. Once that's sent in, the alternate response unit officers then will combine that, complete the report. As you've seen a number of times on our media platform, that's when a number of those videos or photos are utilized to put out to the public. I would say that our reach on our media platform is fairly broad, and I think many people saw the most recent one, which was the patio furniture. So that's how we utilize the information from the complainant and then do broadcast it out to the public, which we have had some success once we do that. And just for everyone's information, our alternate response unit regularly posts on our internal intranet. It's referred to as force broadcast. Photos of suspects, photos of incidents in regards to looking for our officers to identify, and it's actually quite a successful method. You'd be surprised at how many of our officers look at a photo and say, "Yes, I just know what that person is, their name." And then our alternate response unit either goes for further investigation or puts their point out with it. So there's a number of ways that we've taken that information to try to identify and solve that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Khan, you have a question?
I do, Chair. Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. Obviously an improvement. One question though, aside from a refresh or a revamp, what would you describe was the working group's identified goal? Like what's the tool and the goal of the tool? What are you trying to get out of it?
The website is one of the main ways that the community can interact with us if they're not interacting in order to report a crime. So we wanted to make sure it was the way that people could receive information about the Barrie Police Service, the different reporting options, the different areas of our service and how we interact with the community. And we wanted to do it in a way that was easy for people to use. So the responsiveness of the site was a big factor for us because we did see that mobile devices were the primary way people were visiting the site, and it was not accessible on mobile devices previously. So we wanted to make sure that when people were visiting us, they could get that information that they needed easily and quickly in a way that worked on the device they were using. So the accessibility for the users to be able to interact with us in our main communication channel to the public was our biggest consideration.
Good follow-up. Thank you. Thanks for that. And I imagine that there's a coordinated effort now with the social media team, the outreach team to now invite that engagement.
We do have our social media feeds on our website, so we have that connection between social media and our website. And everything that we post, we generally do link back to our website to try and draw those visitors in, so that social media is very limited in terms of the amount of information we can provide. So most of our posts, you will see a link back to our website, either to the full media post with potentially photos of an incident or to a page that offers more information on a certain area of the service. So we always do try and draw our visitors back to the website for additional information.
Thanks.
Any other questions from the board? Seeing none. Ms. Mays, thank you for your presentation. My takeaway of a guy that struggles a little bit with these things called computers is made it user friendly. And one of the major goals of the board and of the service is accountability and transparency, and providing that community safety data right online, almost on time, one day. It's not bad. I think that's a significant accomplishment. So thank you very much for your efforts and that of the team. Chief, I think I'll hand it back to you to introduce Ms. Sharman, who's going to give us an update on our statistics, please.
Thank you, Chair. And as the board's well aware, this organization and its not fixation, but its dedication to be data driven and fact focused that way. And pick up off your last comments. This is about transparency. And that data portal on our website, that is a concerted effort to make sure that our community is as aware as we are in terms of what's going on in their community, specifically by ward, if that's the concern, and we understand that. And we'd encourage our public and community to go on to our website and take a look at their specific ward if that's a concern, or a broader city. But with respect to our organizational researcher, Madison Sharman, the board's well aware of her efforts in this organization with respect to looking at the data available to us, leveraging it appropriately and effectively, deliver better service to our community in terms of public safety. I'll hand it over to you, Madison.
Sherman, welcome back to the board.
Good morning. Lovely to be here. So today I'm going to go through our triannual statistics update. We only have about 15 minutes on the agenda, so I'll go through the slides as quick as I can. So there's lots of room for questions. Okay. So like the chief said, my name is Madison. I work as the researcher here at the Barrie Police. So I am part of our evidence-based research and innovation unit. My counterpart, Sam, is also a large player in terms of pulling new stats. She's actually presenting right now at the International Association of Crime Analysts and talking about all of our innovation and ways to count crime, and is getting a lot of interest. So that's really neat to see. But I am here back home presenting on our stats. So this is going to look at our summer period, so May to August. So our last reporting period was in May. We looked at the beginning of the year. This is going to be looking at our summer period. So this isn't new to the board or the public, but talking about how we measure crime. We have our CAD created events. Those are things that either come in online or through our comms, usually referred to as calls for service. We then have our crime counts. We have our crime harm, which is our weighted index that we apply here, and social disorder. So just for clarity, this kind of shows the map of how these things come in and the flow through our service. So we have those CAD events, then they get assigned general call types. From there, our records unit will code based on what actually happened, reading reports and officer feedback into criminal, non-criminal, and allocate those crime counts. We, as the research unit, will then parse out social disorder counts. And then from our criminal and non-criminal codes, that's where we get our harm score that we apply through the Canadian Severity Index. So looking at our CAD created events, so our calls for service, compared to this time last year, we are down, but when you look, we are sitting at that average of the last couple of years. So nothing too spicy on that one. When we look at our CAD priorities, again, this is following similar trends. So when it comes to our emergency priority 0, we're seeing at 0.4%. This breakdown, we see our proactive has gone down slightly from our last reporting period. It was 32%. I attribute this a lot to summer volume. We do see a large volume in the summer, as well as holidays and maybe not having as much time to do those proactive activities just with our busy season. Then we look at our most frequent CAD events. I've taken 911 call hangups out, still taking up a large chunk of about a quarter of our calls for service. So this continues to be something that we see as well as a lot of other police services, just that volume coming to our communications center. So this is a large piece of our calls for service, but with that removed, we see a lot of our top or most frequent calls for service are those social disorder indicators, right? Those non-criminal, we have police assist, unwanted person, ambulance assist, and suspicious person. Then we have traffic, motor vehicle, traffic complaint, and we have our proactive pieces up there, those community service hotspots and our traffic stops. So these top calls for service are continuously consistent in every report thus far. I'm really excited to say that we are working on a solution When we look at our calls for service and those that are social disorder in nature, we understand that sometimes we are not the best response. We understand these are really complex issues, often dealing with homelessness, mental health, and addictions. So we've been working with our partners collaboratively and have developed or assisted to develop the CARE team. This is hopefully going to be live by the end of this year, and it's a co-response of a CMHA medic and a community paramedic that will respond to calls for service that come into police dispatch that we think are more appropriately handled by this team. So we're going to keep a close eye on this in terms of the measurement, see the impact, but we're really excited to, announce an evidence-informed solution to start addressing some of those calls that we see. When we look at our criminal versus non-criminal, about 90% of our calls for service and things that we attend and deal with as a police service is non-criminal. Doesn't mean it's not within the police jurisdiction, but it just shows our division of work. So non-criminal can include, any traffic enforcement, missing person, any kind of death notification, landlord-tenant act, keep the peace, all these things. So when we look at our most common non-criminal events, 911 hang-ups are the big one. A highway traffic act, so any traffic enforcement that's not criminal, police assistance, police information, and assist ambulance. When we look at our most common criminal, which again is a smaller piece of that pie, we see theft, shoplifting, mischief, bail violation, and assault level 1. So those are the most common criminal events that we deal with in terms of counts. So I'm going to move into our conversation on harm. So another way that we measure crime and safety within our community is using the Crime Severity Index. So this is derived from Stats Canada. Police have no influence on what the score is. This comes from our courts. And we then apply this to have a more in-depth view of crime and safety within our community. And it's really underpinned by the idea that not all crimes are created equal. So if you see a theft under and a violent assault, traditionally police would count that as a 1-to-1 when you're looking just as counts as your only metric. Whereas here at the Barrie Police, we do look at counts, but we also have that harm lens to better direct resources, both in terms of geographically and person focused. So based on research, we then divide our harm into 3 categories. Again, not new to the board. So it comes to community reported, often with a person victim, are proactively detected, things that police can really throw external resources at, such as drug enforcement teams, and are found through good police work. And then commercially detected, so shoplifting, things where, loss prevention officers, for example, can really influence those statistics. So I'm really excited to say, much in line with our last report, we're seeing our lowest harm summer in the last couple of years, both overall and community reported. So those are 2 really, really positive indicators for us moving forward. We see our proactive broken down slightly lower than what it was last summer. That is a metric we like to see increase, because that means us as police services are finding really good seizures and preventing harm from kind of going into that red category. So that's something we'll continue to work on and keep our eyes on. Commercial stays relatively static, but I will note the dramatic increase from 2022 and past to 2023 and on. So we are definitely seeing, whether it be due to increased loss prevention efforts, but much more shoplifting being reported to the police. When we look at our average harm per type or per event, proactive, like I said, is down a little bit. So that means every time we stop someone, compared to our average, we're not finding as much as we did. We're not taking as much harm away. In terms of community reported, it's showing a slight decrease. So that means in one of those violent offenses, harm per offense is slightly down than our average. So that's really positive. And again, commercial kind of stays the same. We're not too worried about commercial in terms of statistics, because we cannot influence. It depends on reporting to police. When we look at our harm drivers,
Again, the exact same composition as our last period and our periods before, seeing fraud always as our #1 harm driver, break and enter, robbery. This is a comparison of looking at our proportion of harm and our proportion of count. So sometimes what we have is it's a harmful crime on our index because there's a lot of them. So that, for example, is what's happening with theft under. It has a lower harm score, but due to the volume, it's sneaking its way into, this top reporting, as opposed to robbery, for example, only takes up 1% of the count and the volume, but it takes up 7% of the harm due to the harm it inflicts on victim and community. Now, I did speak with our fraud unit because, of course, we're seeing frauds as one of the most harmful things every year. I wanted to know why, and I wanted to dig into it just a little bit more. So what we see here is that 75% of our frauds are monetary in nature. 84% of those that are monetary in nature deal with things that are under $5,000. So a large majority of the frauds are, we'll say, more on the minor side. It comes to credit card theft. A lot of that is reported online and citizens working with their banks, et cetera. However, I will say 16% of our monetary fraud is over 5,000. When I spoke to our fraud unit to see what that was about, they talked a lot about investment frauds, a trend they're seeing that we posted on our social media in regards to the e-transfers and those pieces. So if the board is interested, we could always bring them in to discuss a little bit more, but just knowing that fraud is a very broad category. And so, when it comes to harm, there's a high frequency because it covers a lot of things in that spectrum. Our proactive drivers, again, staying the same as all of our other periods. The only thing that really changes is those last two in terms of trafficking. Sometimes the substances and the type will change, but for the most part, this is what our officers are finding and removing from the streets. So our possession of weapons, those breach more administrative justice charges, and then proactively targeting drugs. Again, when you look at portion of count and harm, we see things like bail violations are much more of a volume driver. It's actually I believe it's our highest charge per year is the bail violation. So it's a huge volume driver, which gets it in the top of our harm drivers. So when we look at our harm concentration, again, we always look at, based on research, there's a concentration of both offenders and a concentration of locations. So crime isn't distributed equally across our community. So when we look at our power few, we do it based on hexagon. So here's an example with the police service building and kind of the size of the hexagon. We found that 14 locations are responsible for 20% of the community reported harm. Those 14 locations make up less than 1% of the entire city's hexagons. So it's very concentrated. Harm is very concentrated in our community, in micro locations that we're well aware of and deploy our high harm unit and resources as needed. We find a very, very concentrated summer when it comes to offenders. 3 offenders are responsible for 20% of the community reported harm over the summer. Year to date is about 11 offenders responsible for 20% of the community reported harm. So when we look at our map, like I said, we are down this summer. So we're showing a reduction in community reported harm, but we also see, based on harm being micro locations, it jumps around. So this is a comparison of our harm map last summer and our harm map this summer, just showing different locations. And this is our map on harm versus volume. This is really always important for us to show in terms of deployment of resources, right? So we have a high harm team, and then we have an engagement team in our frontline patrol, right? So it just shows the difference and the importance of these measurements in terms of directing our patrols. Our harm spot deployment, this is continuing to look extremely promising. None of our high harm locations have exceeded their baselines. And when we do see a spike, it's often one event. And so we're seeing now high harm events at our previously high harm locations are anomalies, and that's really nice to see. We're not seeing consistent harm in these locations like we used to. And that's it for me. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Sherman. Questions for Ms. Strong, please?
Thank you, and thanks so much for the presentation. I have a couple of questions. One is on like how the crimes are categorized. So, like, say for example, I leave my wallet in my car and I forget to lock the door. So then somebody comes to my car and they take my wallet and now they have my credit card and now they're going out and spending on my credit card. Where does that fall?
That is coded as a fraud. 2160 is the code that our records unit would kind of put within our metrics. Unfortunately, I am quite well aware of these codes. But the same code would be applied if it was a large investment fraud and you just lost your life savings. It would also be 2160. So this is where the variability is shown within fraud in terms of that harm score, and it can be a lot more of those minor unlocked car, same code, as opposed to a large investment scam.
Just going to jump in there quickly. Yeah. And so when we look at coding, absolutely the theft coding, but within any crime incident, and this is the nature of measuring crime within Canada, within any crime incident, there's a single incident of crime, but within this organization, our records and management personnel code every single crime within that incident. And so we get a more robust picture of the depth, not just the breadth of the types of crime types, but so within that, we would have a theft and a fraud.
That another follow-up to that, like you showed a slide that showed break and enter, robbery, something else. As a member of the public, that is all kind of the same thing to me. Can you tell me why it's different?
So the a break and enter is into a residence where a theft can be a so if you're sitting like from your car, that is a theft of that property. It's not considered a residence or a structure when you break and enter into a location. And again, the in particular, we do not recognize, and you saw in the harm score, in Canada, a break and enter is considered relatively serious. We do recognize that is someone's, for lack of a better term, their castle, or their that is where they go to feel safe. And so it's treated appropriately, but that is necessarily different than a theft where you may be a shopping mall and you left something. If you're in a grocery store and someone steals something out of your like your personal belongings out of that's not necessarily different than a break and enter where you're away and someone with force breaks into your residence and then while in there commits the indictable offense of theft.
To my understanding, not operationally, robbery is break and enter with violence.
But robbery is a theft with violence.
Theft. So it's just that escalation. So there's theft, break and enter, which is in somebody's castle. Robbery has the violence component of those pieces. So it's based on different charges that people can get within the court.
And just one other question, unrelated. When the harm score is attributed based on what the courts are determining. And so how do we align that, or is there a way at all to align that with community perception? And my thinking is going like more specifically to the opioid crisis and the negative impact that the community perceives that has on in a variety of aspects, but the lack of, I guess, like charges or lengthy jail time or anything like that that's attributed by the court, it gives it like seemingly a more lower harm score. But I think that when you look at across the board, like all groups like advocacy groups and mental health and addictions and average citizens and businesses, like all people seem, for whatever reason, like there's a variety of reasons, but I think everybody agrees this is a really big problem. But it doesn't seem to be reflected in court, so then it doesn't reflect into the score. So my question is, as a service, like how can we address that?
So that is a complex question. And to be quite honest, part of the nature of a harm-focused policing approach, it is at its very foundation democratic. So within a Western democratic country, it's not the police who necessarily tell the community what is serious and what isn't. And this is and I recognize this is not ideal, but it is an imperfect system in an imperfect world. The police reported crime severity index has, there is no influence from the police. It is the truest reflection that we can have of what the community feels is harmful on a spectrum of the most serious to the least serious. It's updated every 5 years. It's based on actual sentences across the entire country in every single jurisdiction. And it recognizes judicial sentencing patterns that, again, every 5 years are updated to reflect what is believed to be the most accurate reflection of those of the society that elected democratically then appoint judges. The police don't determine that weight. And I look around the room to members of our community. That is who determines that weight through their elected, who they elect, and those elected individuals then assign as judges. It is nothing to do with the police. So when we look at, yes, absolutely, there is that concern and recognized impact of the opioid addiction. Now, trafficking is quite serious, quite harmful. It was less than 1% of the crime, but in the proactive crime type, but made up, I think, 7%. So it's considered very serious, but at the same time, what we do when you look at harm-focused policing is it's a reflection of what the community determines is serious. It is an important factor that the police do not influence that, because this is policing by consent. And consent is the community. It's the community's indirect decision that what is determined is serious. Not an ideal solution, but it's the worst one, but it's better than any other one that exists. And I apologize, that's not a more satisfactory answer, but it is, in an imperfect world, it is that imperfect solution.
Any other questions from Deputy Mayor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Thanks for the report. Can you go back to slide 9? Sorry. It was the one with the graph and the pie. Yeah. When we look at the non-criminal, it goes to the criminal. And maybe this is more of a recent question than an analyst question. I find it odd that there's not a single drug related to the criminal side, and understanding that there's some issues with how crowns look at drugs and stuff, but open use of illicit drugs is still criminal. And I don't see that at all. So maybe.
Absolutely. So this count here for criminal events is not harm-based, it's solely volume-based. So although that happens, the rate at which we see theft, shoplifting, mischief, bail violation, assault level 1 just significantly outweighs those in terms of the volume that we're seeing. So that's just showing kind of, even when we look at our harm proportions and showing, theft is lower on harm, but very high on our count proportion, it's just strictly the volume that we're seeing within the community.
So just to follow up, Chair. So you're saying that the volume of reported crimes, like somebody's broken into their car, you're getting a report, somebody taking their kids to Armchair Illuminata or something and walking through a group of people who have, inhalation of drugs and smoke blowing around kids, don't call that in. So it's hard to report.
Correct. So all of our stats are based on what's reported to us from the community. So there is a certain level of being critical in terms of our stats are a reflection of what we hear about and what's reported to us formally.
So as an organization, would we encourage the public to start phoning in the open drug use in our public spaces?
Thank you. Yes. Anytime I've spoken to the public, there is an ask, because this is wonderful, but the research calls it the dark figure of crime. We don't know what we don't know, and we're unapologetic about we just don't know. So that people see that, that's occurring. But if we don't, it's not reported, we don't know about it. We do know the greatest driver of harm within our community, if the general social survey is correct, it's intimate partner violence. The levels of reporting of that is minimal. Same with sexual assault. There's a whole host of reasons why that's the case, but if it's not reported to police, we don't know that it occurred or not. And struggle for us is, I don't look forward to the day, but at the same point, I would that when we see skyrocketing levels of reported crimes of those serious type, it is an explanation that what if there's a broader trust in society and a broader trust in our judicial system and the police, that people feel safe to call in about those certain things. That'd be a beautiful thing. Not that it occurs, please don't misunderstand that, but that they feel safe to, and it's they want to go through that system. That's their choice. But it's if people see crime and the ask is, you can report it.
I would say in terms of our measurements, something that we can look at is looking at our proactive work. So our top, it's the bottom 2 of our 5, but is trafficking relating, drug related offenses. So although it's not called in, that shows our proactive work from our street crime and our drug teams and our front line. So that's an indication that we are still, right, it's one of our top drivers of proactive harm in the sense that that is something that we are capturing, but just in terms of volume and the nuances of reporting, it doesn't come up as our top.
Thank you, Chair, and through to the deputy. I think as an observation, not an opinion, regarding your last comment, I'm sensing the frustration. I think the public has decided, in their own opinion, not much is happening. We see that constantly, whether the city's being tagged or the police is being tagged. Why bother? It's happening. The courts aren't doing anything. The judges' hands are tied. The police's hands are tied. I'm not going to bother reporting it. And I attribute that to apparently apathy at this point until something changes. So it's just an observation, not an opinion, but that's definitely what I'm picking up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a couple of questions. Similarly, actually, you noted on that last figure, bail violation is one of the highest occupiers of resource. And I'm curious if we have a feedback loop to the Attorney General, the court system regarding that. Again, sitting watching 4 days of bail hearings and matters of that nature, you still continue to see an overwhelming number of defendants who are released without condition. Therefore, a lack of incentive to show up, perhaps. And I'm curious if there's a feedback loop for that, at least. I'm not saying anything's going to come out of it, but just in terms of information sharing.
In a fair observation, the challenge we face in our judicial system, as the board is well aware after the presentation by our head crown in terms of the latter principle in a country and in a province and a city governed by Canadian law, we are required to do certain things, and our resources go towards where it is required. And this is a offset or an offshoot of that system where that release occurs. To be fair, though, that is a volume charge. So you might be charged with shoplifting and then breach your bail. So, and not, I don't want to categorize any specific thing, but that is our most voluminous charge, theft and mischief. And so if I'm challenged for whatever reason, potentially if I'm unhoused or something, and so our systems are built around where do you live, and what's your contact details. Those aren't necessarily, so that's a traditional way in which we then track it into down. Those systems weren't set up for the volumes that we're seeing in challenging populations with different demographics. And so the reality is, part of it is a system change and the need for that and how we do things. And perhaps more, and that would be through a parliamentary approach and through legal changes, not from the police. We are as flexible as we can be within the laws set by our country and our province. We're able to be as flexible as that. We run into these volume charges. How can we better, more effectively reduce those number of bail violations? If you breach, you're going to get charged. That is the nature of the beast. But how we go about getting that person in front of the courts again, and what does that look like? It can be done in many, many ways. So there is that feedback with the Crown as well, aware that we're facing these volume charges.
Thank you, Chair. I think in respect and fairness to the chief, that was my point of just a feedback loop of just making sure, let the data speak for itself. And from an advocacy perspective, since we do participate at other associations, including the CAPG, just continuing that advocacy effort. Lastly, Chair, for you to Ms. Sherman, we had a graphic up there regarding the proactive and the slight decrease, and I think you attributed it to a number of factors. I was curious, is it biased perhaps by also staffing levels? If summer is a popular time, it doesn't mean that the crime has gone down. It doesn't mean that
Correct.
the sun. Okay.
And this is why we count proactive and commercial differently, because they can be influenced based on resources that we can put in or can't put in. And so that's an example of when it's summer, people on holidays, we do struggle and there's challenges with staffing. So that time to allocate to proactive hotspots and those kinds of pieces reduce because we're focused on kind of that reactive piece. So it's mainly a reflection of that. And it just shows kind of how volatile the stats can be based on, what we're able to put in or not.
Any other questions from the board? Sharman, once again, thank you very much for taking the time to update us. We continually go over budgeted time when we deal with the statistics, but they provide the information that is extremely useful to us and allows our service to move forward. So thank you very much for your presentation once again. Moving forward, there were 6 items in today's consent agenda that were distributed to the board in advance: time and attendance, budget variance, special constable appointment terminations, human resource report, public complaints, and our updated 2024 organizational chart. Any of those items member would like to hold, or any questions they have with respect to those? Seeing none, a motion to receive the consent agenda. Deputy Mayor Thompson. Since there's no questions, I think that means they're approved. For approval, I entertain a motion to approve the appointment of the following special constable members of the Barrie Police Service pursuant to provisions of Section 92 of the Community Safety and Policing Act of Ontario, Regulation 396-23, and the 12 names are listed there. I won't go through the motion to approve those special constables. Mr. Ron. Deputy Mayor Thompson, any questions, comments, or concerns with respect to those appointments? Seeing none, those in favor? Thank you. Brief update on the Community Safety and Wellbeing Committee. Chief Johnson and myself, legislatively a member of the board, and the chief must be a member of that committee. The City of Barrie has had a 2021, 2020 to 2024 plan that's obviously being updated now for 2025. We met recently as Tuesday. The committee has identified 3 areas of risk. There are many areas of risk associated with community safety and well-being, but we narrowed the focus down, and I don't think it's any surprise. Homelessness, drug addiction, opioid addiction, and mental health. And then within that, those three main risks associated will be prevention and collaboration of all the various sources. So that's where the committee's moving forward to develop an action plan. We've also asked for greater representation on the committee board with respect to the county of Simcoe, since many of the matters are social matters that without outside the realm of the members that are currently there. So that will happen. We plan to finish the plan by April 30th of 2025, and the legislation requires that it be approved by council by July the 1st. So just an update that we're moving forward. We have requested from the city some funding to allow us to for a facilitator and allow us some staffing to pull the plan together. And specifically, Chief and I wanted to make clear that it's a City of Barrie initiative for the Community Safety Wellbeing Committee and not a Barrie Police Service initiative. So historically, the first plan, we took the lead on it, but it's community safety is certainly for a strategic partner of that side, but and well-being. We have the knowledge and information, but it's more of outside the realm of policing. So we've made that clear to the committee, and we will move forward. So I will provide updates as I know more. Mayor Nuttall, a question?
No, sorry, that's been hanging up there since I last voted. Sorry about that.
Sure. I'll hand it back over to you, Chief Johnson, for the chief's update, please.
Thank you, Chair. The opportunity to highlight a few events and initiatives that have occurred since our last board meeting. Go. So on June 22nd, members of the Barrie Police Service took part in the Run for Barrie, organized by the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Association in support of RBH's Keep Life Wild campaign. On June 26th, the Community Safety and Wellbeing Unit joined our friends at Special Olympics Ontario to take part in the Special Olympics flag raising at City Hall. On July 15th, Constable Greg Denai, who is a member of the service's remotely piloted aircraft system coordinator, spent time with cadets from the Blackdown Training Center at Base Borden, showing them how the RPAS help in different police operations. On July 17th was Tim Hortons Camp Day, and our members were at locations across the city supporting this great event. It helps young people using camp experiences to develop social and emotional skills and learning and innovation skills. On July 27th, the mayor and I, Councillor Nixon as well, joined the world's strongest man, Mitchell Hooper, who's from Barrie, in a truck pull demonstration along Dunlop Street in our beautiful downtown. The mayor and I and Councillor Nixon were in the back of the truck that you see here pictured, which was being pulled by Mitchell. He looks a little smaller beside me, but that's great. It's the camera angle. On August 15th, I joined some of our members at the Indian Independence Day flag raising at City Hall. August 17th, the Barrie Dragon Boat Festival, organized by the Barrie Public Library. The Barrie Police team raised money in support of victim services. Our team was happy to report that the rain held off until their final race. And while they may not have won any trophies, it was a great day for a great cause. August 26th, our citizens on patrol and auxiliary officers helped cram a cruiser in support of the Barrie Women and Children's Shelter. At several locations throughout Barrie, These volunteers collected generous donations from our community to help the shelter support its residents, which is especially important at the back to school time, especially for those children that need the assistance, lunches and whatnot. So pictured here is Stephen and Chris. This is Christine Douglas, one of our special constables. Her husband, Stephen, also works for us as an officer. They were awarded the Canadian Police Association Award of Excellence for an off-duty matter that they both jumped into to assist an elderly neighbor. They were recognized at the national level. We are very proud. Beside Christine up here is our association president, John Brooks, and Christine's father. Stephen was unable to attend the ceremony, but again, we are incredibly proud of these people who put service above self, not just while at work, but while at home as well. Our downtown initiative continued with officers and special constables throughout our downtown core, parks, and waterfront. 4 constables, 4 special constables, and a sergeant were assigned to this downtown team for the summer months. And our corporate communications summer students shared photos, pictures, and videos of their efforts. Focused primarily on community engagement, but always ready and available to respond to calls for service. The team worked to strengthen partnerships, increase police visibility, and reduce harm in our downtown core. The team could be found on foot, on bike, and even on a Battenberg UTV. I know CAO Proust loved this. And it was also the subject of a CTV a news very story on July 24th. On Wednesday, July 3rd, 2024, the Barrie Police Service welcomed our 5 newest constables to the service as they were sworn in and received their badges. Constables Curtis Alston, Andrew Dunkley, Bailey McDonald, Zach Wren, and Jesse Lowell. Welcome to the newest members of the Barrie Police family. We hope your careers in public service will be rewarding and fulfilling. Early this summer, our community safety and well-being staff sergeant, along with our organizational researcher and our inspector of operational support, along with myself, met downtown with our community partners, including Busby Center and the John Howard Society. We discussed the challenges our organizations face with substance use and the need for police to balance that with the broader community's feelings of safety. We continue to meet with our city partners monthly to ensure that we are effectively addressing issues facing our community. And additionally, I represented the Barrie Police Service on the Rogers TV show Barrie City on the Move for 2 episodes. I believe I did manage to navigate the challenging questions from the argumentative interviewer, Mr. Khan. It was an enjoyable experience as I was able to speak to the challenges faced by our members, by our service, and the women and men of the Barrie Police Service who do place service above self. On the 1st of September, I was incredibly fortunate to be invited to Melbourne, Australia, to represent the Canadian Society of Evidence-Based Policing and sign a 6-country global collaboration pledge to advance evidence-based policing. Also had the opportunity to present on the evidence-based initiatives taking place at the Barrie Police Service, including our Battenberg vehicles, harm-focused policing, offender and officer research study, and the micro research we participated in. Barrie Police Service is one of the services at the forefront of EBP, and it was great to highlight the amazing work done by our personnel. Special Constable Teresa Hummel retired in July after 30 years of dedicated service. Deputy Burke and I stopped by the courthouse to wish her well in her retirement. Deputy had numerous pieces of celebratory cake, so that's very nice. We'll speak to some investigations to highlight here. At approximately 7:30 p.m. on Thursday, July 11th, police were called to the Royal Victoria Regional Health Center in Barrie after a 21-year-old male arrived with non-life-threatening injuries from an apparent gunshot wound. Information was received that the assault occurred at a residence in the area of Toronto Street and Dunlop Street West. The investigation into this occurrence is ongoing, but police do not believe there's any risk to public safety. Anyone who may have information related to this is urged to go to our website and contact the investigator and the information is there. On July 13th, 2024, police and paramedics were dispatched to Grove Street East just before midnight in relation to a disturbance. On arrival, police located 75-year-old male victim who was unconscious and had injuries to his head and face. Despite the life-saving efforts of police and paramedics, the victim succumbed to his injuries. Investigation revealed that the suspect had been involved in an altercation with the victim and fled the scene prior to police arrival. Shortly after 6 a.m. on Sunday, July 14th, a 46-year-old Barrie male was arrested and charged with second-degree murder. A month-long investigation that was conducted by the combined Barrie Police, South Simcoe Police Street Crime Auto Theft Unit has resulted in the arrest of a 26-year-old male and a 24-year-old female, both of whom reside in southern Simcoe County. The accused have together been charged with 24 criminal offenses that include theft over $5,000, attempted theft of motor vehicle, mischief under $5,000, failure to comply with release orders, possession of property obtained by crime, possession of automobile master key, as well as other property-related offenses. They were both held for a bail hearing after their arrest last week and have been since remanded into custody. The Barrie Police, South Simcoe Police Crime Auto Theft Unit wish to acknowledge and thank the York Regional Police for their assistance in this ongoing investigation, a recognition that crime knows no borders, nor should the police. At approximately 8 p.m. on Monday, August 26th, Barrie Police were called to the Georgian Mall for a reported armed robbery involving 4 suspects who smashed a glass display cases and fled in a stolen white SUV. 1 individual suffered minor injuries. Our CIB, our Criminal Investigations Bureau, is continuing to investigate this occurrence. Representatives from various police units will share information. Sorry, I just want to reflect back. This is our Citizens Police Academy, and I do know this was asked for by members of City Council specifically, and we do recognize that. This popular program is being held for the first time since 2019. The 8-week Citizens Police Academy allows members of the public to learn more about policing and the Barrie Police Service. We'll have various members of our specific units who will share their information in their area of expertise, including training, forensic identification, marine, traffic, mobile crisis response teams, canine, human trafficking, homicide, and tactical support. Citizen Police Academy will begin on Wednesday, October 9th, 2024, and continue each Wednesday evening for 8 weeks, with a graduation event being held on Wednesday, November 27th. On November 7th and 8th, the Barrie Police is proud to be co-presenting this conference, the Building Bridges, the Evidence-Based Policing Conference, first one held in person in Canada, along with the Durham Regional Police Service and the Canadian Society for Evidence-Based Policing. More than 150 delegates from across Canada, the United States, and the UK and Australia will join us at Blue Mountain Conference Center, hear presentations from academics, researchers, and police officers on a variety of evidence-based policing topics, how to be more effective and efficient in delivering public safety. Finally, Chair, the Chiefs Gala in support of the Women and Children's Shelter of Barrie. I'm honored to be hosting a Chiefs Gala on November 22nd at Liberty North, with all proceeds going to support the Women and Children's Shelter of Barrie. Tickets are on sale now, and it promises to be a night of great food, music, and coming together to support this invaluable resource in our community. I would reflect back on our stats presentation. We do know that this goes underreported. So the greater the support for a service agency like this, the better. It is a well-deserving organization that works hard to help those whose voices are always heard. And with that, Chair, I'll hand it back to you.
Chief Johnson, thank you for your update. Questions for the chief from the board, please, Mr. Khan.
Thank you, Chair. Actually, just a bit of a comment, if you don't mind, real quick, in follow up to the upcoming event at Blue Mountain. I think it's worth noting that both yourself, sir, and the chief, as well as Ms. Sherman, along with CAO Stan McClung from Durham Regional Police Service, participated in the CAPG conference and delivered a presentation regarding evidence-based or I believe as you were corrected, evidence supported, I believe, if I'm correct, research and policing. And the survey results came back in from participants, and it was a widely attended event. And the score actually came in highest of all presentations at a 98% approval rating for the value of that presentation. And the only comment was, we wish there was more. We wish there was more, maybe a case study or more information to take back to services. So I thought it would be worth noting that for you. So congratulations and thanks to you for participating and delivering that message. And I'll leave it there other than the cheap shot that you took at me earlier. But the Nielsen ratings, actually Nielsen Lake / open source ratings come back that you were neck and neck with the mayor in terms of delivering value to the community on that show. So thank you for participating.
Other questions for the chief? Seeing none, again, Chief Johnson, thanks for your update. That concludes our open meeting for today. I entertain a motion to go in camera in accordance with section 44(1) sub A of the Community Safety and Policing Act to deal with legal and HR matters. Mr. Khan. Barrie Thompson goes in favor of going in camera. Thank you. We'd ask the table to stay, mainly members to